Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris, and I want to dive into a little bit of something I'm interested in, and hopefully you will be too. Um, it's the NFL draft for my favorite team, the Denver Broncos. I'm a fan of all the Denver and Colorado sports teams since about 1996 when the Avalanche kind of came into being after moving down from Quebec. So I had a friend online. He was a hockey fan, and this point, I'm still in the UK. I've never grown up with any American sports or seen any American sports really at that point. Maybe clips here and there, but I kind of got into hockey, and that first season kind of got attached to the Avalanche, who he was very excited about. Um, and he was from the Colorado area. Kind of attached myself that way, and then branched out into the Denver Broncos, the Denver Nuggets in basketball, um, the Colorado Rapids in the MLS, and sadly the Colorado Rockies in baseball, the worst team by far in baseball. They've got some competition for that title, but oh boy, historically they might be the worst ever. Um, yeah, yeah, that's yeah. Look it up and you'll see. Yeah, we don't talk about the Rockies. Um, but there's been some lean years for the Broncos since they won Super Bowl 50. The Avalanche have had some success. They look really good right now. They might get eliminated. They're currently down in their series to the Stars, who a lot of my in-laws and my wife actually support the Stars as well. So it's rough having a lot of people support a team against you when you've been supporting teams longer than them all. Um, but that's because I lived for 10 years in Dallas. That's where they're from, um, in and around Dallas. So yeah, that's a little rough. The Nuggets have had some success lately. Not the best of days right now for them either, but again, they're both like solid playoff teams with a chance at being a contender and maybe winning. And the Broncos, since 2015, when they won Super Bowl 50, have been absolutely terrible until last season, where you start to see the last couple of years, you see a little bit of hope from the drafts. They got a little bit better, coaching got better, and there's a lot of young guys making some waves on the roster. So this draft, hopefully, on the back of last season, will kick us on to the future. So I know this wasn't a very popular draft with Broncos fans, and I understand that. I understand that the players we drafted weren't the players that Broncos Country wanted. They weren't the players that Broncos Country expected. And we had certain positions of need that people were expecting us to go big on, and certain names within those positions that people expected to see. And when they were on the board and they were ignored for different picks in different positions, or just not the name that you'd want to certain positions, I think instant reactions were quite poor from Broncos Country. Not happy at all. That's fine. I was kind of okay because I do a lot of research. I come at this from a GM's point of view, a roster building kind of point of view. That's the way my brain operates. I always enjoyed that kind of thing, more the scouting slash roster building of it all, more than coaching or just watching as a fan or playing sports. I've always been more about assembling the group and kind of how to cover weaknesses in the players you've already got and who can be coached up and can we get in the right coaching staff to coach these people up, and that's how my brain operates. So I think I see it a little differently at times than other people. And of course, being from the UK and not growing up in the sport, I think that gives me a different perspective as well. On top of that, where I'm learning as I go, and I'm not really dealing with preconceived notions or anybody else's ideas. I'm kind of coming to it with my own fresh set of eyes, and I really enjoy that viewpoint because I can pick up other people's viewpoints who have so much more wealth of experience in and around the game than myself. But I don't, I'm not burdened by that either. So I kind of get the best of both worlds there. Um, so yeah, what I want to do is break down the draft, quickly go over why I think the AFC West, the division the Broncos are in, is going to get way tougher over the next 2 years, because of the way other teams, especially the Raiders, have drafted. When you used to be able to counter them for poor drafts, and they finally have got their butts in gear and taking some fantastic players. So not amazing long term. But one of the first things that we kind of have to talk about is the Broncos had a bunch of picks, and the general manager, George Payton, is known for trading around. So that's what happens. And I'm on board with it. If you've got players that you rate a certain way, you'll build your own draft board. There's consensus boards out there. There's individual mock draft boards from all different kinds of analysts and pundits and whatever you want to call them, experts, as they tend to term themselves, even though they don't get a lot right. Then yeah, they they're not really what the teams are looking at. The teams have their own draft boards. They build them, they scout, they group talents around in little clumps. So if they had the number one overall pick, then this clump of players here they think is good value. If it's the 15th pick, they'll go down on their big board and down underneath sort of where the picks are, and like, okay, around 15, this would be the guys. They'll look at their positions of need, of course, but they're also looking at the best players available. And I know we had pick number 20, and we drafted this young man, Yade Barron. And Broncos Country didn't really like that at first because they weren't expecting a cornerback. And if they were expecting a cornerback, they weren't really happy to see one that was kind of undersized. And I think that's just the viewpoint they had at that time, instant reaction. So yeah, that just kind of set the tone for the entire draft. Expecting a running back, the best running back was off the board. He went to the Raiders early on. They were really bad last year, so they get a higher draft pick, and they took the best running back in the entire draft. That's fine. They do pair him up with a tight end from last year who was probably the best player taken around that spot, and possibly could or should have been rookie of the year. So that's kind of a scary duo. And then they're working on some other bits and pieces, but like it's a roster building, right? I hate the Raiders, but I appreciate kind of what they've taken in the first round, especially the first couple of years. Like last year, this year, like they've got probably generational talents at tight end and running back, which makes a lot of other things really easy. So yeah, if they ever find a young quarterback, then that could be scary. If they're bad again this year and they get a high draft pick and they're able to kind of swing for the fences and one of the top quarterbacks next year, then maybe they got a shot at challenging for the division as well. The Chargers are not far away from the Chiefs, who got to the Super Bowl and lost, but have been one of the, if not the best team in the entire league over the last 5 years. And that sucked for us Bronco fans. That's really bad, but the Chargers aren't that far behind them. The Broncos are right there with the Chargers based on last season, and I think we're closing that gap more than they're extending it. They're closing on the Chiefs, but we're closing on both a little bit faster. And now the Raiders are coming up from behind with their running back. So, two tight ends off the board that Broncos wanted. It was very small chance either would fall to us. The second one went off at 14. We're picking 20. We weren't going to trade up. So we've got to accept that. Best running back off the board. There's two or three other names of running back that 20 seems maybe a good spot for. Broncos Country wanted one of those three, and didn't happen. We were looking to trade back maybe to around 25. That was a spot 28, maybe 30, kind of like for one of those three names. That's all that we know so far. That's what the coaches, especially the head coach and the general manager, have said. We were looking to trade back into that kind of area of the draft for one guy at running back. But at the same time, during their scouting, they fell in love with 3 or 4 players, and they ended up with a couple of those players. One of which was Jade Barron, and they said, especially for our first two round, first two picks in the first round, second round, there were two names there that they really, really focused on. They got them both. So Jade Barron, cornerback, not really a position of need, but we've got the defensive player of the year in Patrick Surtain. The second, just PS2, is phenomenal. Best corner in football and the best defenseman in football last year. Um, After him, Riley Moss is good, but still developing, still needs some time. Got injured as well. And once he got injured, we had no depth underneath the cornerback, and we kind of got blitzed by some wide receivers, just absolutely ripped apart. And then we got Jaquan McMillan, who is a good slot corner, but not great. He had a good 2023, and I think him and Riley Moss were good, but definitely can be improved upon from there. And like I say, no depth underneath. So bringing in Johnny Barron, I see how it works. He will be the slot corner. There's less value at that position. People, if you're like grading it traditionally, but this guy was voted the best defensive back in all of college football last year. He's DB number 2, DB number 1, was also wide receiver number 1, two-way player in a lot of people's estimations, number 1 at both positions. But Travis Hunter went number 2 overall, and that was always, he's always going to be ranked pretty much number 1, but he's number 2, and I think Broncos fans kind of need to take some solace in that and kind of understand that. Like you see Travis there, number 1. Will Johnson had injury issues and was rated slightly below. This is NFL Draft Buzz. I kind of like the way they break down players, which is why I decided to use them to look at things. And I don't think there was that many good players. Hairston went earlier than a bunch of these other players, but pretty decent. So, yeah, a little bit undersized, but he's a Texas boy. I think he was born in Corpus Christi, moved to Austin at a young age, went through the Austin school system, and then he has ended up at UT as a Longhorn. So he's just basically born just outside Austin and then has stayed in Austin his entire life. And yeah, like football's really big in Texas. So you kind of like that kind of upbringing. It's for me it would be Texas number 1, Florida just underneath that, and then other southern states kind of like Alabama and Georgia especially, like they'd be just underneath that as well. Like all these places worship football, but Texas is probably a little above the rest. So I'm kind of happy to see that kind of makeup as well. So highly productive, maybe a little undersized. That's fine. You can see here, you know, not great height, not great vertical jump, short arms. And then you look then, his weight's okay, which means, he's actually probably packing a lot of muscle for his height. Decent hands, an okay broad jump, nothing really crazy, but what he does bring is good speed. Really good speed. I think he also brings great instincts, and you can see here how they rate him on a percentage base. It's 80% overall. His QB rating when targeted, the lower this number means the less effective that a quarterback is, and 50 is pretty dang low. So that's really good. He's a very good tackler, very good against the run. He's fantastic in coverage. In a man press, he does really well, although if you do throw it deep in a man press, he might struggle a little more. That might be one of his weaknesses. And they've got him really low in zone, but a lot of other people think that he's more zone than man. And I think that's because he played safety, he played inside corner, he played outside corner, he played box safety, free safety, little nickelbacker sometimes. Like, it's just very versatile tool set to have. You can see overall rank was 12. The position rank was number 2, of course, behind Travis Hunter, and he was projected mid first, which is where the Broncos ended up taking him. The Broncos had him as a top 10 player on their board. So I don't think we can be too mad at that. He is comparison basically just like their measurables and what they're good at in college. Roger McCreary, okay, not a bad comp. That's fine. Kool-Aid McKinstry, kind of highly rated in his draft year. And his new teammate, Patrick Surtain II, the best player in football on the defensive side last season. So I'm okay with that. He kind of compares roughly with those people. And you can pause and read these. And I do encourage you to go to NFL Draft Buzz to take a look at scouting reports and everything else. It's a great resource. Um, and I think they look at it slightly differently than other people. Their big boards and their reports aren't quite the same as others. And I found them to be slightly more accurate than some other places too. But yeah, you can look at all this stuff. You get a little bit of a draft profile, then you get all the strengths and the weaknesses, and then a summary as well. And you can see here, this is kind of what I love when I'm reading up about him, and then I go and watch tape and I see it on tape too. But put on the Georgia tape, you see exactly where Baron belongs in the first round. Disrupting timing routes in the slot, one place. He's in the slot. Then rotates to deep safety, like a free safety, and baiting throws the next. So much versatility. Absolutely fantastic. Elite processing speed, like all the buzzwords are here. You love that. Then you got percentiles of what he's really good at and what he's not good at. And then you can see from all scouts, because not just their scouts, but they look at where everybody else has him. And you can see that, NFL.com has him as a 37th best prospect. A lot of teams had him as a top 10 pick. So you can then extrapolate to that and be like, okay, well, these people actually had him in the right range, okay? That's that's where a lot of teams had him. Sort of top 10. Broncos took him at 20, so like where he actually ended up is kind of where these people are. But then 37 for NFL. Maybe don't fully trust what NFL say because they didn't seem to be accurate on a big pick, second best corner in the class. And PFN, who had him in the second round. Late in the second, not early, but late in the second round. So you can kind of see here as well. Again, pause if you want to look at these. I'm not going to go over them in detail, but it shows you kind of what their rankings mean as well. But yeah, like I think this is a fantastic player. You'll start probably opposite Satan day one on the outside in two corner packages, like the base 3-4 that the Broncos run. But Broncos spend about 75% of the time in a nickel formation, which is 5 defensive backs, which means 3 cornerbacks. And then he'll probably be the inside the slot corner, that nickel corner. And yeah, we should see Riley Moss on one side. You should see Pat Surtain on the other, and then not Jaleel McLaughlin. Jaquan McMillian is someone who will be a backup at that point, and I think that's a better fit overall for the whole team. So I kind of like this pick. Let's say Broncos Country wasn't very high in him. We can now look at that NFL profile, which might not be the most accurate, but you kind of get a little more information from them. And next gen stats actually rate him as borderline elite. So if you look down here at the bottom of this pop up, 90 to 100 is elite. He's got an 89. 94 production. So maybe he's not the best athlete. Maybe he's not the biggest guy. He is undersized slightly. We talked about that. His arms are a little short. We just seen that. NFL Draft Buzz gave us this information. So that hurts his score. But it doesn't hinder him at all, which is why he's voted the best college back last year. And his total score still nearly elite. And I think this might be a better way of doing it than just this prospect grade where he could become a good start within 2 years. No, he's probably going to be a starter that has an impact this season, early this season. I'd be surprised if not. So, yeah. I don't trust this as much as I trust this because it does take into account projection. So, yeah, he's quick, but he's not super quick. He jumps well, but not super well. But again, what you see here is what he projects to be is a nickelback. And again, you've got even more weaknesses, strengths, and everything else. Another thing to look at is the relative athletic score, the RAS score. And, you know, MathBomb does a very, very good job with this. It's RAS.football. And yeah, you can just see all the athletic traits. And you can even change things up, which I'm going to do to show you kind of how his versatility can help. But all his measurables and his combine scores are added in. And then they're kind of graded against historical players and against the rest of the class and everything else. And we get this basically a score out of 10 in every category, but an overall score out of 10. So we can just generalize how athletic the player is. And he's quite athletic, and it's really based on his speed. His explosion and his agility aren't too bad, but he is undersized, and that does kind of bring down his score quite badly. You can see, though, he compares with a lot of players. Now, Jonathan Joseph had some Pro Bowl nods, so I think 2 or 3 times he went to the Pro Bowl of the second team. So that's a pretty good comp. Okay, he's got a higher RAS score. JT Gray, another guy who, looks quite good and has done quite well in places. Darius Slay, another Pro Bowler, but again, that's a higher score. Kayvon Webster, former Bronco, drafted by us and won the Super Bowl in 2015. It wasn't amazing, but was like a good third or fourth corner for us, which I think Barron exceeds, but still. And then Callaghan looks like a solid prospect too. Should be pretty interesting to see, but we get some comps here just purely from athletics, and this would correlate um, with the NFL scores, where they kind of look at that as part of their next gen score. But here, I'm going to put him as a strong safety. So you can see now where he lines up, and the only greens here are going to be the 40 and the 20. We change him to strong safety, where I think he'll come down into the box and play. He's very undersized, but his explosive suddenly gets a lot better because of that broad jump. His agility gets better because of the shuttle, and all 3 of his speeds are now elite. And so I think that's kind of where you're going to see him used. He's going to cover the slot, he's going to cover the box, he's going to play nickel, he's going to be useful, he's going to be moved around in different things. It allows you to put Patrick Surtain on the best receiver no matter what on an island, and then put Barham wherever you need him. And that's why this is a great pick at number 20. And I hope Broncos fans and Broncos country as a whole come together and understand that. And I hope we see it this season, because I think we should. Now, that's a lot of time to break down number 1 pick in our class, but we need to do that and a little bit of time spent as well on RJ Harvey, because this is the 2 premier picks, and the 2 I think have a big impact day 1, season 1 Whereas the rest, maybe there's a bit more projection out to the future, a bit more potential than what they can bring now. And they're both underrated heavily in different ways and overlooked in different ways and underappreciated when they got picked by Broncos Country because we do get a running back. He is a little undersized. Same as Barron, RJ Harvey is undersized. But again, big player rating. Even DraftBuzz rates him as the 10th best running back. I think he was number 3 taken, so you could argue that he was overdrafted. But production, again, is there. He didn't have many receptions, but I think you can see the skill set he has means that he could be developed and coached into a pass catching back, which would be a skill set. He's not that great at blocking, we'll see, but it's there. He can do it. He just needs some coaching and he needs repetition, and he'll grow into those roles. What he's really good at is finding a hole, getting to it, and then using his speed to get yards. And isn't that what you want in a running back? Really? You want someone that's going to find some space and exploit it with good speed. That's what he brings. And so I think people are a little bit harsh on him. And you can see here, he will be the 10th on this list. And you've got to remember when he was taken, like I picked 20 when we took Barron. Everybody but Genty was on the table. And so, yeah, he's an 83, and we've got 87s up here. And Hampton went to 22 to divisional rival, so people are upset with that. Caleb Johnson stuck around a long time. Dylan Sampson, I think, was a 6th or a 7th round pick. Henderson Judkins, 3 or 4. I think Devin Neal was a 5th or a 6th round pick. I really like Devin Neal. That's what I thought we would end up going for in like the 4th or 5th round. People like Scarabow, James, like there's some good backs, but we decided to go for Harvey. And again, it's it's good explosiveness, vert and broad. So how tall can they jump and how wide can they jump? And then everything else is kind of meh, but like an elite 40. So super speedy, can jump sideways and long ways quite well. So that's the explosiveness they've got. And then the vertical jump as well is pretty good behind that. So you're not getting someone that's good at everything. And he is very undersized, small arms, small wingspan, etc. That's why a lot of these backs are rated higher. They're bigger bodies. But I think it's a unique skill set that really fits what Sean Payton wants to do with the team moving forward. Very good rusher. Doesn't break tackles very well. He's not a big guy. Receiving, like I say, I think he's got good hands. He didn't get many targets, and so he didn't get to showcase it. And there is a lot of work to be done there to refine that. And I think he will get that. And again, blocking quite poor because he's small. He's not very strong, and he doesn't have the technique right now. But there's nothing about him that makes you think that he can't learn that. And that's kind of what the coaching staff are saying as well. They really think he'd be a very good pass catcher one day, and that blocking will be a plus, not a minus, one day as well. So excited to see that journey he's on. But I understand people had other favorite names, and we went different directions and possibly drafted higher. So to me, White, James McClellan, Zach Evans, not bad comps. They're not close, really, but some okay names there. You drafted number 60. People were thinking he was a 3rd or 4th round pick. We take him late in the second, so almost a 3rd rounder. But a little bit of an overdraft maybe. And again, not the name people wanted at running back. So elite lateral quickness, exceptional contact balance, blazing speed, advanced vision and patience, versatile skill set as a runner and receiver, workhouse back, durable, ball security, big play threat on every touch. There's enough here to work with. And again, he fits what Sean Payton wants to do at running back. He doesn't want the big body bruiser who's going to bust through the lines to win an extra couple of yards. He wants someone that can catch out the backfield and that can find the gap and be gone and turn a 2-yard carry into an 80-yard touchdown. Not a bruiser that can turn a 2-yard carry into a 5-yard carry. 5-yard carry. That's not what he's looking for. So undersized, can dance a little too much, so needs to kind of trust his instincts and just go when he sees something rather than be indecisive. Pass protection is not good, but he can learn that. Limited experience, that's fine because he's young and lacks the ideal power. So yeah, it's just pretty much he's small, he's not strong, he does lack experience in a couple of places, and he's a little indecisive. But if you can coach up that, you can get him a little bit stronger and kind of coach technique on pass blocking and pass catching. I think what you've got is a very exciting skill set here. And that kind of brings you into it. You can see the explosiveness here is good to great. The 40 is great. Everything else is kind of really low, and that height is really low. But it's to be noted at 5'8", if that's too short for a running back, then the best running back in this class, Aston Genty, is also 5'8". So that doesn't necessarily mean a ton. But we took him a 60. PFF said he was a 72. Like, this is kind of the range a lot of people had him in, would be start of round 3 towards the beginning of round 4. And that's fine. That's fair. Again, NFL had him at 201, which is like 7th round. And I think maybe a lot of people just look at NFL.com for prospects. And so, yeah, they don't rate them the same as the Broncos did. That's for sure. But I like him. I think he's an interesting person. Not anyone that we expected. But again, we look here, prospect grade is an average backup or special teamer. Like, no, look at the next gen stats. His production was huge. His total score is huge. It's halfway through that good. And I think even that's a little low, where he might be more like an 82 to an 83. He's so quick. He's so good. He is, his dad played football, which helps. You know that he's been coached from a young age. He just, first team All Big 12 last season. School record with 48 touchdowns. Tied for 4th in the entire FBS. Like, just, he gets better year on year. And he's young and he's quick. And okay, maybe he was drafted a little earlier than people thought. But the coaching staff have a definite idea for him. And if they're right, this will be looked back on as a home run pick. So I think we trust the professionals here with their idea of what he's going to do and how he's going to do it. If we look at the RAS score, 8.49. Okay, shuttle wasn't great, but elite explosiveness, elite speed. Okay, he's undersized. So what? He's a running back. He can squeak through smaller gaps. He's got a lower center of gravity. He can turn on a sixpence. He can leap very far mid-run sideways to avoid a tackle. He's got great vision to find a gap and go. Like, so what that he's small? What's he need to be tall for? What's he need to be strong for? Apart from pass blocking, but just like as a runner, none of this matters. As a pass catcher, if he can get it separation, none of this really matters. So I kind of ignore this largely and just look elsewhere and like, yeah, for what he's going to be asked to do, and how we're going to train him to play and how he fits in with the kind of quarterback we've got, with the kind of tight end that we've signed in free agency, the kind of wide receivers we have, the way that we're going to kind of put him in a place to succeed, this matters. This matters, and his vision and intelligence matters, which is very highly graded. Among the best in the class, if not the best in the class, on a lot of teams' boards. Like, I don't mind Michael Bennett, okay. Kareem West Smith. Like, there's not a ton of big names here, but for a late second rounder, almost a third rounder, I think there's home run potential there. Pat Bryant, I like him. I know other people like him. I know Broncos Country really hated this pick, overdrafted. He is slow, and that's all that they kind of took from it. There are quicker wide receivers who were also as good in other aspects or better in people's opinions. And yeah, he's a number 21 ranked wide receiver, but still got a good player rating. This 40 time though, 4.4 is kind of where you want to be. He had a 4.6, but if you analyze his actual playing speed, his average speed during a game, and his top speed during a game in miles per hour, you convert that down to kind of compare against other players that have those speeds in games, and they all ran a 4.45 to a 4.53, which is maybe some small differences, but that's a huge improvement over a 4.61. So I'm going to put this down to a bad run, or maybe he runs better in pads and he just plays quicker when there's something on the line. That is a thing for some people. So I'm not as worried here. Again, if you do the tape, it's fine. And it's another Florida guy. You know, we got Texas guys, we've got Florida guys. It is what it is. You know what you're getting from these players. You know that they're able to, you know, understand a lot more. Their football's taken seriously in these places. So again, good background to come from. But again, you look here and okay, the explosiveness is fine. You know, it's good. It's not great. It's good. Again, if we just ignore the 40, because I don't think that's a true reflection, then yeah, there's a lot here. He did well at the Senior Bowl. He played well, and then you look here and it's like, yeah, he's got 82's low for his hands. I think he's got fantastic hands. He only dropped one ball all last season. He's targeted like hundreds of times and like dropped one. Probably better than 82. But like he runs good routes. He kind of gets some separation. He can go deep. If his speed was that low, why is his deep threat so high? Because he doesn't play as a 4.61. I think when you read around it and you watch the tape and you do some maths to figure out who he compares to and what they ran, you kind of see that. So the main thing the Broncos country is upset about, it probably isn't the thing. Now, what he does do good is blocking. I think, again, this is low. And his hands are really, really good. And I don't know why, it is so low. His quarterbacks, when throwing to him, is a 135.1. He's a very reliable target. And you can see here, Keon Coleman, one of his comparisons, and oh boy, he can have a very good career with that. So he was drafted at 74. Consensus had him like 158, definitely overdrafted. But again, someone had him in a better range, and perhaps they understood a little more about it. Other people just don't rate him, and that's fine. But yeah, you can read a little bit about them, but they're masterful at manipulating leverage. So like being able to push away from people and like get some separation is a big thing for him. He's a natural hands catcher, massive catch radius, devastating on boundary routes. If he's out wide, he's even better. Dog mentality to contested catches. So if he doesn't separate, which he's really good at, he's still gonna beat you, even though he's only 6'2", and you might be bigger or stronger than him. It does not matter. Silky smooth hip transitions working downfield. Creates yards at the catch with long, powerful strides. surprising contact balance. If the play doesn't go his way, he's very good at getting back into cover underneath the coverage and offering the quarterback a way out, and refined understanding spacing and timing in the red zone. So when you're about to score, this is a guy you go to. I think in that regard, we got Devon Vele, who is very good in a similar way. We've got him, Cortland Sutton, who is our best receiver, also plays similarly, very good against the sideline, dog mentality, little bit of separation, and just high points contested catches. Like, we've got another person like that. So if you believe the 40 time, definitely overdrafted. If you don't and you trust the tape and what you see he plays like and how good he is and how reliable a target he is, then it's not a reach. So you kind of do your own research and make your mind up, but that's kind of what I see. Again, though, it does say explosive get off, and again, his speed, release package, like definitely some technique work needs to be done. Telegraphs routes on shorter patterns. But then again, on comeback routes, but working back to the quarterback, he's great at. But when it's designed, he's poor at it. And I don't understand that. I don't really understand that. I'm not sure. That might be just a scheme he ran in college, because that to me is a conflict and a logical inconsistency. And so again, I'm trying to like not just trust what I'm reading, and uh, I'm trusting what I'm seeing on the tape. And on the tape, it looks like he can be very good at that type of thing, but it just isn't something that was shown a lot of. So either he's got to learn how to do it, or a better scheme will put him in better positions. So yeah, lean frame. I do think he needs to bulk up. I think that'll help with his blocking, which again is more of a technique issue than a willingness or anything else. And press coverage, extra, yada yada. So yeah, basically to beat the press, you need to have a quick first step and separate. Quick first step, like a bit more technique in how he runs. Doesn't need to telegraph stuff. Needs to bulk up a little bit. So it's basically a little bit of everything, but none of these are huge weaknesses. So why is he rated so lowly by a lot of people? I don't know. I think again this is another one where people have kind of just looked at that 40 time, the 4.61, and just gone, nah, we don't want him. I'm not saying he's as good as any of these guys, maybe not even like a Jalen Noel, I think, and Jack Beck are very, very good players too. But I kind of have him in that range. I might have him as like 11, 12, somewhere in there. I think it's a fine pick, and again, you know what you're getting with him. And yeah, the other thing is we're high on character, guys. All three of these picks so far, all three of them were team captains, showed excellent leadership. A lot of them have glowing school reports as well as coach reports, as well as great tape, um, and unique traits that each of them have. They've got high compete, like it's pretty much everything you want if you've got the talent to go with them, and all of them, like I say, have that unique skill set. So the athleticism scores hurt by that 40 time. Again, you ignore that. This is probably low to mid 70s, and so would this be. So again, I don't really trust it as much as I trust the tape. Um, but yeah, just you can see what he's doing, and again, more family playing. Father's the athletic director for the entire police athletic league in Jacksonville, Florida. They've got him as a sixth round pick. He was taken late in the third, and again, there's a lot more here, but there's a lot of it basically is about his it's about his speed. And yeah, he had problems with bad focus drops in 2022-23. Okay, But he didn't in 2024 because he only dropped one pass the entire year. So why is this listed as a weakness when he went an entire year and only dropped one pass? I think that's something that you resolved last year. Why would you expect it to come back? Don't know. But again, you pay attention to the 40 time, you read a report like this, and you're like, he's just another guy. I don't think he is. And again, the RAS score is really hurt by this 40 time. The explosiveness is good, the height is good, the weight's okay, like say, bulk up a little bit, get a little bit of stronger, and he plays quicker than this speed anyway. So it's a low RAS score, but overall, it's not bad. And a lot of people have said take him as a tight end. He might play as an underside tight end in some sets, but really what you're looking for is like 6'5", 250 pounds. So he's going to get really hurt here. But if you use him as a wide receiver who plays kind of like a second tight end, so you're not playing a two tight end set, but you're playing him maybe in the slot, then yeah, then he definitely has a speed, he definitely has explosion, and he would be an undersized kind of tight end. So that is another way you can kind of twist this and kind of put him in good positions to succeed. And I think the same type of thing we did last year with little Jordan Humphrey and Von Vele is definitely kind of an option as well for Pat Bryant. Savion Jones was the first pick that people loved in Broncos country, and I think it's easy to see why he's kind of rated decently highly. Not that far behind. He's a solid player. He's versatile. He does need to bulk up. He can play defensive end, which is where he's going to play, not edge, as they kind of say. And if he does put on a bit more muscle, a little bit more weight, he could slide inside and play defensive tackle as well and offer that versatility. But he's a very good interior pass rusher, and I think that fits the Broncos scheme and the way Vance Joseph likes to set things up. So you can kind of see here again, there's some good things, there's some strengths a little low. Not a great tackler, but a good pass rusher, good run defender, which is what we need on that defensive line. I think he's a good fit. Wooden, yeah, okay. Thomas, Jackson, don't know a ton about them to kind of say yes or no whether or not he'll play the same style as them, but he does fit a little bit in that way. And again, defensive lineman built for the modern NFL. Needs significant technical development, and he wins with raw tools. So basically, yeah, he's young, he's inexperienced. Coach him up, could be very good. And I think that's what we need to remember as well. He will have a year to sit behind John Franklin Myers before taking over that spot mainly. Maybe. He was taken in the kind of right route if you look at these players here in the third to fourth round. I don't mind it at all. I think he's very solid. Now, his prospect grade here is higher, but what hurts me is this projection score. He just didn't do it enough. Athletically gifted, 6'5", 280, looks pretty decent, but I do think he needs more muscle, size up. But his build is really 6'5", 33.5-inch arms, 10-inch hands. Like, if you get him a little bigger and then you add the technique on top, I understand how devastating he could be. And again, one of the last picks in the third round. I think that's a great place to take him. You're just outside the top 100 there, I think. I think this is like 101 or something like that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. He's supposed to go to third round as well. When you look at the RAS score as well, this is kind of where he does set up quite well. Just strength is let down. Everything else looks good. Overall 9.2. And if you do want to put him as a defensive tackle,
then he definitely needs to get bigger, and he definitely needs to get stronger. But those kind of go hand in hand. And so sliding inside, like this could be someone that makes a big impact. So I don't think I need to convince Broncos Country on Savion Jones. He's another captain, by the way. And Q Robinson's another captain, by the way, from Alabama, played in Alabama. And again, pretty good. More of an edge for sure. Great wingspan. Run defense, I would say, is pretty good in him as well. So both of them, Savion Jones and Q Robinson, better run defenders than we've got at edge. So they can probably start there against the run and set the edge quite well. And on pass rushes, maybe we go back to Cooper, Benito, Ellis, and work Q Robinson into that mix slightly as well. You can see here he's pretty good. He can also do well against coverage. So if it is thrown over the top in his area, I think he'll do quite good. And his top comparison here is Baron Browning, who we know very well, and we're very high on Baron Browning. He was drafted to the Broncos, and we traded him away. He just didn't develop quite as well as we wanted, and we had an excited group underneath him that would cost a lot less money. So, yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. But Baron Browning's a good player, so not a bad comparison to have. And again, you can kind of see where it is, and he used to play safety, which is why he's good against coverage. And you can kind of see all the little bits and pieces. But again, you take all these good things and the durability as well on top, and then when you look at it, it's like this is a lack of experience. This is a lack of experience. This is probably more technique. This is experience, and this is technique. Experience will come with time and reps. Technique will be coached. So long term, these are all very, very fixable. These are kind of very, very impressive. And that's kind of what you lean on. You can see here that apart from the hand size, everything else is really pretty good. That weight will probably, like I say, put on some more muscle, get him in there. And yeah, the fact that he's in the 130s, we maybe took him around early. But again, teams will have their own big boards, and he was much higher on ours than any of these sort of websites predicted. And I do think he's probably better than the 19th edge in the class. I've got him around 12 or 13, I think, looking at a bunch of tape and everything. I think one thing that kind of is a little interesting is he is so different than the edge rushers we have, but he could slide inside to play linebacker. And we got Drew Sanders, who's a linebacker who could slide out to play edge. Baron Browning was a linebacker who we converted to edge, and then we tried to convert back into linebacker. Um, so it's useful to have these players to slide around, but I think it hurts them at times as well. And just not amazing here. So again, probably shows how raw it is, and getting to the end of the fourth round, you're definitely more of a project than a complete player. But again, I do think he did really well. He had a good season in 2023. He had a good start to the year in 2024 and was really starting to show up, to be honest with you. If you look at that 14 games versus 9 games, one less tackle, 4.5 more tackles for loss, 2.5 more sacks, a forced fumble, and then he got injured. I think if he didn't get injured, he would be rated a lot higher. And yeah, hybrid 3-4 linebackers, kind of something you might think about. And because he was injured, he didn't really do anything. so you don't have a lot on the Rasco to go over. But it's interesting if you look at him as a D end, which I don't think is kind of right. He is undersized there, but that's not what he's going to play. If you look at him as a linebacker, he's got elite size. And if you look at him as a edge, can we look at edge? No, I think they put him all defensive end, but like I would like to see an edge, like an outside linebacker, rather than group all linebackers together. That would be, I mean, as a defensive front player, yeah, good size, needs some more weight to him if you're grouping him as a defensive front, as a front seven player. So yeah, it tough to see, maybe, but again, I think high end potential at a low price point is good. And then you never draft a punter, but if you do draft one with like the Colonel's mustache and goatee combination, I guess, 6'4" from Penrith, New South Wales, or as he's better put, from Emu Plains, Australia. Let's go get some. Very little feedback, kicks quite well. Basically, TLDR on Crawshaw is very good punter, good directionally, can place it kind of where he wants, good distance, good power, needs to work on his hang time. The ball just doesn't hang in the air long enough for your blitzers to get down to the pass, to the receiver. That's what he's got to work on. But that's technique. Denver Air should help. It hasn't helped any of other punters, but it should help. And yeah, he's got long arms, good height. That kind of does help with punting because it kind of allows you to put the ball in good position and use your entire frame to generate that power. So not really worried about that. And if you want to look at him, you can go look at him. But yeah, it does also say he lacks power, but then career long 79 yarder. Does need better technique. Used to play rugby, and it's Australia, so rugby and Australian leagues rules are kind of big out there. But once he stopped kicking that style and learned kicking from an NFL style, he did get a lot better with his punting. So yeah, he will be our starter. He will be a little bit of an impact player. And again, we don't really see too much there. And in the seventh round, picking up Caleb Lohner. And the reason I like this is another Texas guy, but more importantly, is Flower Mound, which is where my wife grew up. And not that big a community, so I wonder if I know people that know his family. Quite likely a possibility. I lived in Flower Mound for a little while, and I've roamed that area for 4 or 5 years. So yeah, basketball prospect. Wasn't a great basketball player from what I've read, but yeah, very raw. Only caught 4 passes last season. All 4 were touchdowns, and you know 6'7" is a great height for a tight end. 256 is kind of dead on almost. The I think 258 is prototypical weight these days, and so he's definitely got the size. He's got the athletic background. He's a Texas guy, but he just never played football for years, and like he's very raw, and that's just what it is. But like all 4 touchdowns on the 4 catches he made. He's only ever played 57 snaps. His wingspan isn't great. I think that's something that they don't show here, but they do tell you here. So be interesting to see kind of how that goes. But the fact we got a bad tight end room, and you can kind of see here, okay, his agility's a little poorer than I would expect. He hasn't got great speed, but when he gets up to speed, it's pretty decent. But what you'd expect from a basketball player, that explosion is high. And yeah, his size is big. Probably put on some more muscle. Um, and then it's just all about technique. Build his mechanics, get him a stable footing, pass blocking, and just, he should be good at have a good set of hands on him. Um, but yeah, I think that might work out. So it's a very interesting draft class for the Broncos. But like I say, not what a lot of people expected. Not the people they expected, even if we did go those positions. And there's a lot of people that were upset that certain names weren't taken and certain positions weren't taken in certain rounds. That's just the way it goes. What I love is that they're all high character guys. Out of the first 5 picks, 4 of them were team captains. The other guy is Savion Jones, who I do believe was, you know, still kind of a leader on the team that could have been a captain, did well, just limited snaps in a tough program with other good rushers and defensive linemen. It is a little raw, so does need to develop more. But yeah, that's kind of the risk of going to a big program. If you're not a starter, sometimes you don't get that chance to showcase yourself as much. But still, very high character guy. And then we got ourselves a good Australian punter, and we got ourselves a tight end that used to play basketball. And those are your kind of real projects there, probably round 4 onwards. Those are your project players. Last 3, maybe 4 players in that draft are project players. The top 3, I think number 1 starts right away and makes a pretty big improvement to the defense, which was a top 5 unit last year, and already has 2 big name free agent signings who, if they stay fit, that is a question mark, but if they stay fit, probably turn it into a top 3 unit this year, if not the number 1 defense in football, which would be exciting as hell. And then, yeah, that offense was like 15th last season, kind of middle of the pack. But the rookie quarterback's going to get better. Bo Nix had a very slow start and got better as time went on. You got to trust that. A new tight end who actually plays well in free agency, which is something we haven't had for 10 years. That's a big improvement. Marvin Mims played a lot better as time went on throughout the season, so he could really hit the ground running. Troy Franklin had a rough year at wide receiver, his first year, so maybe he gets better for year 2. And we've added in Pat Bryant as another option there, as well as a home run potential running back to probably the worst running back room in all of football last season. So when you break it down, you look at the impact that round 1 and 2 can have on this team. When Barron playing corner and nickel corner, box safety kind of combination, I think that is fantastic. That's only going to help us out. And RJ Harvey at running back, that's only going to help out there. Evan Ingram, big signing. At tight end, also going to help Bo Nix. So you kind of see the plan. You see what George and, well, especially George in some cases, but with how he's drafting people, he's very good at the draft. And then Sean Payton's very good at coaching and scheming up in a weird way. So again, unconventional wisdom at times from both of them, but it seems to work. And it's a very good combination between the general manager and head coach with he's a good, as well, a very good offensive minded coach. And we've got a very good defensive minded defensive coordinator. So top 5 defense, we repeat that, we're good. Top 15 offense, probably more like a top 10. We're pretty good. It's just the Raiders got a lot better this draft. The Chargers Still have some holes to fix, but they got a couple of pieces which should improve them, and the Chiefs do as well, especially their first round pick with an injured player that could turn into a very good tackle in the future, slipped all the way down to 32 for them. So they got some great value there. Another value picks throughout for all three of those teams. So it's not going to be easy for the Broncos. But I do feel that we're on the ascendancy. We've got a shot at playoffs now for the next few years easily. The cap hit for Russell Wilson and the end of that diabolical trade will be done with after this season, and suddenly we have a lot of money to pay people. But I think we're in a really good position even without that money. So when we get that money, we'll be in an even better position. And I think for Broncos Country, we need to kind of focus on that and remind ourselves of that. Of our offense wasn't that bad last year. Our defense was that good last year. Both of them have improved significantly through free agency and the draft. And even though your guys weren't there, it doesn't matter. Sean Payton's guys were there, and he got them. He got his offensive joker in RJ Harvey in round 2, and he got his defensive joker in Barron in round 1. And I'm going to trust him. I see the vision. I understand how they fit this year, next year, for the future. I understand the development plan. I know why we drafted the people we did in the way we drafted them. I understand it all. I lost out on guys too. I had some big players that I wanted in rounds 4 to 7. They all went elsewhere. And it hurts, but I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to trust in Sean and George because they know what they're doing. And watching the tape, evaluating all the scout reports, looking at the RAS scores, kind of getting a better idea of who the player is and what they can be. I'm kind of happy with the draft. We broke our playoff drought last year, and I think it's safe to say we'll be a playoff team for the next few years, all being well. I don't see really why people are that down on this draft. But I understand the initial reaction, the visceral kind of reaction immediately. But yeah, I think we're good. And these players are good. And we're going to get better, and they're going to get better. And we've had a couple of good drafts in a row. That's something to be really excited about moving forward. So, hey, that's going to be my wrap up. Done. Kind of trying to keep it around an hour. I think I'm a little over that, but not too bad in total. So let me know what you think. Let me know how your team drafted. Did the Broncos draft any of your players? Did you draft anyone that was highly sort of linked to the Broncos? Like maybe a Loveland or Warren, um, Hampton, Judkins, Henderson at running back. Like, did your team get any of those, or were you surprised that the Broncos didn't get those kind of players? Have you saying Shedeur Sanders? Why did he fall in your opinion? Is it right or is it wrong? Um, and if you're a fan of any of the other AFC West teams, what do you think of your draft, as well as the other teams in the AFC West, including the Broncos? Kind of who got much better, who got a little bit better, and where you think people are gonna end up finishing this year? Because I do think we had the division on our own for a long time. The Chiefs have had it now on their own for a long time. I think it's regressing to the point where all 4 teams are getting a lot better quickly and kind of all meeting up. So let me know if you disagree or agree. Like, comment, subscribe as always. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care, stay safe, and go Broncos. God bless Bo Nix.